Hey guys, it is John from Seattle Coffee Gear. We are here with some commercial equipment and we're going to do a review. Now this is the Rocket Espresso R9. This is their top of the line machine. It is a multi-boiler PID controlled machine. So let's jump into what some of that means. So PID means that it is the temperature is regulated electronically. And then we have a couple videos on our YouTube channel just detailing the specifics of a PID or PID. I'm not going to dive into that today, but all you need to know for now is that the brew boilers or your coffee boilers are electronically regulated and not done by a P-stat. It has a massive steam boiler in here, and that's feeding both of your steam wands and your hot water here. And then it has two smaller individual boilers for each of these groups. These groups here are fully saturated, which means that there is a ton of water hanging out above that. And that helps with a lot of temperature stability. As you can see, I don't know if you can see this here, but it's telling me exactly what my temperatures are at each individual group here. This is set to 93.3 degrees Celsius. Again, on the face of the machine here, you have individual shot counters for each group. And then up here above, you have a manual button that's also your programming button. If I select that, it's just going to run until I tell it to stop. We have a single shot button and a double shot button. These are both programmable individually. And then over here, we have our hot water button. And you have a hot water button on each of these individual group controls. And both of those are for that hot water right there. And like I was saying, this hot water is pulling water from that steam boiler in there. And then a unique thing that Rocket has put on their machines is a mixing valve. We'll get into that. It's actually underneath this drain tray right here. And that takes a little bit of cold water and mixes it in with the water from the steam boiler back here. So then you can actually control, like an analog control for the temperature of your hot water. Because if you notice, this isn't spitting and spewing as if it's superheated water straight off the boiler. It's a bit more controlled than that, which is nice. So if you're in a coffee shop, you're not serving someone a 212 degree Americano and you're just not burning them, that's always a good idea. Well, why don't I show you guys some of the programming and how that works. So to program this machine, you hold down this P button. That's also the manual shot control until it starts flashing. And then once it starts flashing, you'll notice neither of these two are lit up, and that is because they have already been programmed for us. This one I have programmed to be dialed in for a nice double shot at about 40 grams out. And then what I like to do for my buttons is to program this one for a 2 to 3 second rinse or purge. So that way I don't have to shut that off. And actually that's in programming. I'm going to go back and reprogram that. And then to exit out, you press that button twice. And now that's going to run for 2 seconds. Well, that's kind of how the programming works, and that programming also goes for your hot water. And one thing that is different about this machine than some of the other machines on the market is these groups are programmed individually. If you program this group, it does not automatically copy over to this group. So you would have to program this one as well to get your volumetric set on both. Well, let's talk about the steam a little bit here. So this is your steam arm. It has this lever to control your steam. It has another steam wand over here. One thing about these is they are cool touch steam wands. And something I've noticed is because these are slightly longer, A bit more water does condense in here, and there is more just condensation to push out. So you want to make sure before you're steaming, you're giving these a good purge to get rid of all that water that's hanging out in there. These are cool touch steam wands, but as you steam for a while, this does get fairly warm to the touch. So I wouldn't recommend just sitting here with your hand on it, as I'm getting all steamed out here. Would not recommend just holding that because that is pretty hot to the touch there. I think that covers the basic functions of this machine. So why don't we dive into a little bit of the nitty-gritty. We'll take a break for a second, take apart the machine, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we got the top of the machine open here so you guys can get a look at the interior of the machine. And as you can see, this is pretty much all stainless in here. You have your main steam boiler back here, and you can see how large that is. That's sometimes referred to as the service boiler. And then you have your two individual brew boilers right here. They're individual, so you can set the temps individually, and you just have more control over that. And then right here, this is what I'm talking about when it's fully saturated. So the water is just coming up into here when I start the shot, and it's keeping that temperature stable. Yeah, that's pretty much all that we need to talk about in here. As you can see, everything's pretty well accessible if something needed to be repaired on this machine. And the stainless steel boilers are a nice touch instead of doing copper or brass or something like that. But yeah, that is pretty much all we need to talk about in here. Why don't I put this back together and we can talk about some of the other features of this machine and get up close with it. Okay, so this is kind of a unorthodox shot. We're using the reflection on the machine to show you guys basically the control center or the information center. And this is actually underneath the machine. And there's a little hole cut. You can see I'm pointing to it in the reflection there. And that's telling you the bar pressure in that service boiler, your steam boiler. It has the time on it, and it tells you to enjoy. So that's basically where kind of your diagnostics are going to be, where your temperature or your bar pressure is going to be. And there's a little cutout underneath. In a second, we're going to look at that and see exactly what's going on there. Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit more up close and personal. A second ago, we were looking under here, underneath the machine there, but now we're going to look on the inside here. So I'm taking out the drip tray. This is all dried out, so don't worry about me making a mess. And in here we can see that screen we were looking at a second ago from underneath the machine. And that's just telling you some more stuff about that. We can see that pressure again, 1.3 bar, and that is for the service boiler, not for those brew boilers. We have the time here, and it says enjoy. It's so nice. Here is that hot water mixing valve I was talking about earlier in the video. It has a little screw here you can turn to change your temperature from cold up to hot, and that's mixing the water line in from under the machine with the hot water from that service boiler to give you something that is actually servable for an Americano or tea. We also have the drain box right here, and all your lines coming into that, nice and accessible. Pretty easy to clean, and that is all that. Put this back in. All right, and let's make some drinks. So like I was saying earlier, that's set up to do a 2-second flush, and I'll come back over here. Today we are using from Espresso Republic, their Cali Classic Espresso. Really enjoying this. It says it's kind of like a medium dark roast or a darker medium roast, but I think it's closer to the lighter side of things. Really tasty. We're also using the Eureka Olympus 75E grinder. This has 75 millimeter flat burrs. Using our OCD for redistribution along with some tapping. And one of our Reg Barber tampers. So I was talking about our volumetrics a second ago, and I'm actually going to do a little test here. So I had this set up to pull right about 40 grams, and I'm not even going to pull this onto a scale. I'm just going to pull this directly into this shot pitcher here. All right, that looks good. So I don't know if you guys can see this from that angle, but this is counting up. My shot dropped at about 6 seconds, which is what I was hoping for with this 20-gram dose that I'm using. And I'm looking for a shot time in the mid to high 20s. So while that is just about there. All right, yeah, 29. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And that is 39.1 grams. So the volumetrics in this machine, from what I've seen, are really pretty accurate, within probably about a gram of your final weight, which if you're doing a 40-gram shot like I am, that's a pretty low variance when you're thinking about things percentage-wise. I'm gonna go ahead and knock my puck and rinse that. I'm just gonna wipe this up, and then I have to go grab some milk, and we'll talk about milk steaming on this Rocket R9. All right, so I got milk in my pitcher here, and remember earlier I was talking about, because of the size of this steam wand, a lot of condensation does build up inside. So my recommendation is to purge your steam wand over here in the drip tray with a towel around it, so that way you don't burn yourself, your feet, or anybody else. Another tip with this machine for steaming is if you have the steam wand all the way over here, it makes it a little bit easier to control. This actually has some of the most powerful steam on almost any of the machines I've worked on, so you just want to be careful. You want to be especially careful if you're using a pitcher that is this small, because you can really overflow it if you use too much steam. So pretty much about there is all you need. And if you look at how much power that has, even there I was launching milk out of my pitcher. So you just want to be careful with this machine. Also, I just used that, so I'll put it up there. And even in that short amount of time, I'd say that milk got to at least 150 degrees, if not closer to 160. I'm gonna grab my shot from a second ago, and let's go ahead and see how this looks. Alrighty. So we got kind of a slow pour thing going on today, but if you look, even with that kind of wild and woolly steaming, we got some good milk texture out of it. Heated up very quickly, creates good texture with a little bit of practice. And I'll make sure to taste this. While that is hotter than I like my drinks, that's a dang good drink for not having to weigh that shot and just having it pull automatically. The milk heated up very quickly. I think this is overall a good machine if you are a specialty focused coffee shop, you don't have as much money to spend, and you still want something that's going to produce really quality drinks back to back. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave a comment down below or pick up the phone and give us a call. You could talk to me, one of our other commercial salespeople, and just have a conversation. Maybe you've always wanted to start a coffee shop of your own. We'd be more than happy to talk you through what that takes and what that looks like. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like it if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos like it. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.